I have this opportunity of introducing this guy, very popular guy here.
The name is McDonald Hopkinson, alias Boy. Born in Trinidad, grew up in Europe, played soccer with All Hawk Sports Club for many years. Joined the fire service. After joining the fire services, leave Trinidad in 1970. Arrived in Canada here where, we hardly even see black people around. We get more involved with a team and we decided to bring out, well, the team already started as industrial, Scarboro Indies, industrial league. It was guys from Trinidad, not from the same area, but from Trinidad, and a couple of guys from the teams that I met that I used to play with in Trinidad. Mm-hmm. And we decided ready to get ourselves involved by bringing out a little recreation team, per se, which was the industrial league.
Okay, hold on. From the best of my knowledge, your club, was it a spin-off for Scarboro Caribbean or so you guys played with Scarboro Caribbean first?
Yeah, we was playing the name of the soccer team in Scarboro was Scarboro Indies, an industrial league we formed. Okay. Started from an industrial league. And Scarboro pulled away. Well, we end up in a little disagreement and physical fight. So we eventually sent a team into the TND, and it so happened we got into the TND. And some of the guys wanted to play competitive soccer, and they decided, well, they will stay in the TND and play competitive. And the rest of the guys who wanted to play just like a fet match and drink, they formed Scarboro Caribbean.
So let me get this right. You were together through an altercation or whatever. You made a decision to go in TND. The one who can play, the better players went TND, and the remnants, as we would call them, stayed with Scarboro.
Stayed with Scarboro, yeah. Formed Scarboro Sports, yeah.
Okay, and you signed into that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the members and them together.
Unity is really the third most bona fide Caribbean team with Barbados, but Barbados always seemed to be a little under the fringe. So, they never surfaced fully.
Fully with us, yeah.
Like how Unity did. You had Mali around that time, and yeah. I don't know what happened.
Remember Mali United? Yes, that was a club around. Unity got a lot of Mali players at a certain time because we had Boz, we had Doc, we had Lawrence Glynn, Mali Fall. We get all of those guys.
Being around the club on Church Street, and you guys were practicing over by Fleming and there.
Yes.
Alan was the coach at the time.
Yes,
So you guys were fully diversified.
Yes, we had Unity Netball Girls, and they used to play in the league.
What caused it to dissolve?
I think eventually, guys started to get fed up. Guys started to get older. Guys started to work out of town, and they had a family, so they didn't devote themselves too much into the games after a while and the gathering. Things changed along the line, We used to have a lot of excursion to New York, picnics, all over the place. We used to raise a lot of funds. We used to get party at 201 Church Street, which was our clubhouse. I could remember, contrast game. He was playing.
Loney played for that team too.
No, yes. That was a breakaway from West Indies United.
Yal was the name. So now you're into TND. So how did you guys fare in the TND?
Started and work our way, I think, into the first division. I think we, the years been around, we find ourselves in the, I think we was in Premier for 1 year. Premier division for 1 year.
Couple of things. The Iere tournament.
The Iere tournament is a tournament that we used to look forward for. That was, it used to be with Monday or something like that, where they used to have the army and all the guys and them up here. Yes.
Yeah.
Those were the good days, man.
Yeah. So, how did you guys decide to come into Flemington? Because I think you had a team there, and Scarborough probably pulled out at that time. I think when you were in, I'm not sure if Scarborough was in.
No, I don't think Scarborough was in. Scarborough, they pulled out. They formed their own league after a while in Scarborough, I think. League, everybody used to look forward to every Sunday morning. The level was nice. We had guys who, like, guys had the ability to do what they have to do, and they really pulled their way around until we started running some problem with outsiders coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it was used to encourage a lot of little things, a little struggle outside. But the league was a good league. It's something that had a lot of us together and look forward to on a Sunday morning or a Sunday evening sometimes. It'll go until like late in the evening.
Thanks a lot for the information. Now, wish you all the best.
Yeah, okay. All the best to you too, and be safe.
All right. Yeah.
My name is Roy Johnson, former member of the Unity Sports Club. In 1973, I became the club's second president, succeeding Lawton Gordon, who was the club's first. After my presidency, Sam Lewis became president, and he remained in that position to the end. In 1973, Unity joined the Toronto District Soccer League. Then in 1974, they were promoted to the second division of the league, then promoted to the first division. Then in 1980, got promoted to the highest division, which was the Premier Division.
So how you got linked up with Unity? What was your link for Unity?
With Unity, when I came to Canada, settled in the Toronto area, Eglinton and Marley area. Then I moved on within months to Bathurst and Eglinton area. But whilst I was in Marley, stayed with my sister for a couple of months, and Noel Birch, a senior member with Unity, who was at Unity at the time, he introduced me to Unity. So I went off with him, and didn't have a car, so I used to get a ride with Noel, going to practice in the gyms. Gyms were down in the East End around Carlo, and can't remember the cross sections.
Mm-hmm.
And that year, played outdoor with Unity in the T&D League. We had Lance Greenwich, we had McDonald Hopkinson, also known as Boy. We had Lance, Pat Greenwich was the coach at the time. We had Len Crooks came after. Who was some other guys? I can't remember the names.
So were you in T&D? Did you go in T&D? Did you play in T&D, or you were in just contrast, or what was the deal?
I played in T&D. I played in contrast just once, because most of the times, I have a full plate. Whether it's schoolwork, whether it's regular job, because as I mentioned earlier, I was a supervisor first, then plant manager. Many Saturdays I got to go into work, even though I may not work all day, but I got to show up to make sure things are right, spend 4 or 5 hours, and then from there I'll head off to whatever activities Unity may have on the Saturday, if any. Around 74, 75, 74, our members from Unity started purchasing houses. Some of the members went to the East End, Scarborough. Others went to the West End, i.e. Brampton and Mississauga. Those that moved to the Scarborough area, they are now called the Scarborough Caribbean. And those of us that moved to the West End, after about a few months or so, or no, the following year. So I moved to Brampton in 75. And Antillians was formed, I think, in 76 or 77, 76, 77.
Yeah, because Unity won the contract in 76. So Unity
76, okay.
So let me ask you, did Unity and Antillians coexist at any time before Antillians took the
Yes. So we had members of Antillians still playing with T&D, with Unity in the T&D. So Antillians, sort of a recreational culture, guys get together to, spend the time, as we say, to Lime on the weekends. Our ground was Chinguacousy Secondary School, which is in the Brilliance Parkway and Bramley Road area.
No, thank you for giving me the time and everything else.
Yeah, man.
All right.
It was nice. Keep up the work. Keep up the work.
All right. So we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, okay, man. Have a good
take
day.
care. All right. Bye.
My name is Alan Kalinda. One of the guys from Unity team was my roommate, Cecil Gans.
Okay.
And so when he was going down to practice with Unity, I would go with him. And they didn't have a coach at the time, so I started, helping out.
Oh, you remember what year that was, though?
No, I mean, I'm a calendar, so I don't have to remember yet. You have to look for that. You have to look for that.
Yeah, so I'm looking for it now. I know in 76, you guys beat Real United. You were playing. I can't remember who was the coach then. So I put you around Unity in 76. Put it this way.
Okay. I had basically 2 stints with Unity. When I came from the semi-pro league, I went with them, and we had a coach who came from another team who was coaching the team, and I was actually the assistant coach, but I did all the exercises.
What coach is that?
Pardon me?
You were the assistant coach?
Yes, I was helping.
Who was the coach at the time?
I would rather not say if it's okay with
all
you.
right, okay. That's fine. That's fair.
And at the end of the season, he said to me, Alan, I don't want you to help me coach next year because you didn't play as good as I know you could. And I thought that was strange because we won every game except the last game of the season. We had already won the league. So I couldn't understand what he meant by I didn't play as good as I could. So and plus,
And that was second division though. If you won, that means you're getting promoted? There was no promotion?
I can't remember. I think I'm wondering if it was a sort of an industrial league. I can't remember us getting promoted that time. But
yeah, you were in the industrial league, according to Boyd and these guys. I think Unity.
So I don't think there was any promotion to be around then.
Okay.
As I said, I left, and the coach didn't like. I don't know what was happening because I left, as I said, and the team wasn't doing too well. And the coach, remember after the year that we won, I left, right? Mm-hmm. The team wasn't doing too well, so the coach left. So this is when I went back and started helping out with the guys. There was no real coach. We were just practicing and playing. And as I said, when I went back, I think that is when we won the Contrast Trophy.
Yeah, 76. Everything has to balance with 76. Okay.
This is before I was coaching, This is before I was coaching.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
So, all right. So what happened at the end of your tenure with the coaching? Because I saw you in 77 at West Indies. You coached after that, not so?
Yes, I did.
So
I thought after taking Unity from where they were, the club almost dismantled, I brought them up. And as you know, we had netball and soccer. The team was really doing well. We had our picnics and everything, and we were doing well. We went on a trip to Barbados. But apparently, the same things like no captain and have to come out to practice. And I was very, very hard on the good players because I knew from my experience that if you allow the good players to do what they want, the other guys who are less will want to know how come they're getting away. They don't tell you anything, but they don't like it. Now, that is also coming back to why I didn't have a captain as such. Because one of the guys, let's say we have 11, so we have 5 guys who sure to play. If you put one of the 6, tell him he's captain today, right away you give him a lift. At least that's how I saw it. You give him a lift. So he will come out now saying like, this coach thinks about me. So even if he didn't come out to practice one day, he will go home and practice because he wants to be in the good graces of the coach. At least that's how I was seeing it.
Your call, because nobody now knew the players you were dealing with.
For instance, another thing, I never had 16 by themselves as the first team and have a second team. Although I had first and second, I had everybody training together. And part of the reason is, I figure if a guy is not on the first team and he's practicing with a guy from the first team, and we're practicing today, he's playing with the guy from the first team. And tomorrow when the guy from the first team scores, he could feel good about himself having played with the goal scorer yesterday. So this is how I had the whole team feeling good about themselves.
Yeah.
So I knew who were the better players, but I never allowed the better players to talk to me as they want because they're good or behave in some way Like there was no swearing or anything in my time, you know. There was no hard talking to each other, you know. I didn't allow that. I think that is part of the reason that the team did so well. But as you know, when you start holding down the stars, they don't like it. Now, when we were winning, they all started thinking that I taking all the credit. But what they didn't know, as you know now, that I had represented Trinidad in track and field before. So coaching unity was not as high for me in sports as I had been before. Mm-hmm. So when they thought that they were doing something to me by getting rid of me, it was doing me a favor because, as I said, I started going to York then. Okay. So after they got rid of me, the teams, I should have told you, during the 2 years that I coached, we lost 6 games. When they got rid of me, the following year, they won 4 and lost 18.
Whoa, whoa.
And about the 3rd or 4th year, some of the same people who were glad to get rid of me came back and asked me to coach again.
And
but that time I was sorry.
Being a unity man as you were, I guess you oblige and help them out.
But very prideful. Don't leave that out. Don't leave that out. So what I did now, remember as I said, I was gotten rid of unceremoniously.
Yeah.
Right? So when they called me, I mean, I thought it was my time to get even. So the management started calling the old players who had stopped coming because, as I said, they were losing, telling them that Alan is coming back. But I never did tell them I was. So they were practicing in Flemington Park indoor. So I went to the practice and I stopped the practice that I had. I stood on the stage and they were on the floor. And I asked, you all asked me to come back to coach. I was coaching here before. I never coached anywhere between then and now. Why do you all want me to come back? Well, there was a noticeable silence. So I said, well, maybe I took you guys by surprise. So next week I'll come back again. So you all will come with, giving me reasons. Mm. Well, the next week I went back again and they explained to me that when we went to Barbados, I had too much to drink and I was misbehaving. But what they didn't realize is because I was expecting for us to win, but we came second. So that was hard for me to take. So I did some imbibing, had a few libations, maybe a little too many. Mm-hmm. So that is what happened. So this told me that I was drunk when I was there. I was so hard on some of the guys. But they gave me all the reasons that they had to. So when they were finished, I said, well, guys, I haven't coached anywhere between then and now. So if I come back, I will be doing those very things. So I think the best thing for us is that I don't come back.
Do you have any intentions at all of going back? Or as you say, this was a get even in that just to see them ask you, as people put it, or beg you to come back so you could get your feel that you were good, you were not disappointed, you fulfilled your needs, and you're not going back?
Midget, as I said, I gave my all, but they didn't like what I was doing. And some of them, they thought that they had better ideas, so they got rid of me. So all the ideas that they thought they had, they implemented them, but they didn't work. And this is why they didn't want me, because they didn't like how I was sort of putting their views in the background. And I didn't have time. Remember, I was the sole coach. I was in the park 6 days a week. The only day I didn't go was on Friday. And I told them that is to give the guys who were married time to go to the grocery. But I was in the park 6 days a week. So why should I have a selection committee? And I told them.
Is that part of the beef that you were supposed to have?
Well, I'm assuming because I was the lone selector, because they wanted a selection committee. But I had this view that a committee is a group of people who individually can do nothing, but get together to say that nothing can be done. So
okay, and was that in the second? You say it's 2-year tenure you had?
Yeah. But I'm saying,
was that from the first year or?
No, well, the first year they were all listening to me because remember the team was almost.
How did that develop for the second year?
Pardon me.
How did that type of attitude that they were taking develop for the second year if everything was running smooth in the first year?
Human beings, unlike ants, nobody wants to lead when it's not going good. But once it starts going good, everyone wants to tell the leader what to do. And this is exactly what happened. During my first year, they were all listening to me, mouth, ears, eyes, everything open. But then when we were winning, everybody started thinking that, well, we're good. And So they wanted to tell me what to do. The same things they were doing the first year when I was telling them to do it. The second year, they wanted to, well, we're good now, so he can't talk to me again. But I was still talking to them the same way. So this is why they had problems.
Okay.
So this is why they got, this is why I believe, this is why they got rid of me.
Okay. So in other words, what we used to call it, you're too strict.
Yes. Yes,
You're
yes.
too strict. But let's cut it. Alan. There was a interview prior to yours, and with no names being called because we don't believe, but there was a problem with management and you. Your name was called, but the management name was not called. And we keep it that way because we have you here now. So within all that systematic thing that you're talking about there, was there a problem with management per se, that brought that on? Because right now it sounds like just the players find you were too strict, but normally if management's also supporting a coach, that would be an issue.
You see, I know from experience, they don't like the strictness, but once it's working, they're going to keep quiet. But I'm saying, in case of management wanted to tell me how I should be running the soccer. And if I have somebody who is in management and never kick a mango seed out of the road, he's not going to tell me how to run a soccer team. He would try, but I wouldn't be doing it. And so because he had that much power, he got there and was talking to the guys individually, and he got them against me.
Okay. So we just want to make sure we have that fully covered, because the image I'm getting and the public might get is that this is a strict coach. And nothing wrong with being a strict coach, you know, if that's the image you want, that if you ever come to play for me, Alan Kalinda, that it is this way or the highway, right? But if it is this way, if it's this way, you get the job done and we can have our fun after. You didn't show the two sides. That's all I'm saying.
You mean I'm not showing it now or then?
Well, we could only deal with them because then you explained.
No, but off the field. And this is, you see, because I was so gentle off the field, that's why they had a difficulty with my change.
So was there camaraderie? Was there...
Oh yes.
That's well, okay.
Oh yes. I mean, like the defense, those guys from St. Vincent, even now when I see them, I mean, we're very good. Like there's none of the guys now that I could say we're at loggerheads, you know. There's one guy from Iere, I go down by him. When I go to Trinidad, I stay by him. Although he was on the team and they might not have liked what I was doing, but when I go down to Trinidad, I stay over by him. Oh yes, and I mean, all the guys when I see Ken Wynn, but whenever I see them in the grocery, I saw Lawrence, you know, all of these guys, any one of them I see. Like we're still, like I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad. You know, like I'm serious because I know what it takes to win.
Okay.
I mean, I could not have been Trinidad number one in long jump, high jump. I wasn't number one in triple jump. I was actually number 3. But in high jump that year, I was number 1. And so it took a lot of discipline. So that is all that I was trying to get them to do. Because remember when I took the team, they were losing.
Yeah, that part I understand. That's the part I wanted to get.
Every now and then, up till last night, the boy called me last night. We had a talk for about half an hour. McDonald Hopkinson, our very, very good defense. And he was a very, very good defenseman, you know. Boy, that same contrast time you talk about, that guy played some football, it's still in my memory.
Yeah, the defense stepped up, him and Johnny.
Oh yeah. You're talking about Johnny Hislop?
Yeah.
That fella could play football. That guy is very, very good. Man, I mean, I love to see that guy play. And when I saw him, he had a bad knee.
Yeah. Well, I can't recognize that because I knew him from home, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know.
What do you mean? I'm glad I recognized that. I could recognize talent?
Yeah. No, well, recognizing and mentioning it, you know.
I know.
Yeah. Alan, I want to thank you for giving me the time, the opportunity, and the information. And just stay safe.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I have no problem doing this. I actually enjoyed it.
My name is Lawrence Glynn, and I grew up in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I came to Canada in 1974. There were some Millington brothers. Everton Millington was here in Toronto, and he is from my area, and we scrimmaged together, so we know each other. and he introduced me to Mali United. I didn't really leave Mali. Mali broke up. I have never really left the club, to be honest with you. But effectively, I played for Mali only 2 years. I played 1 year, missed one, and then played one more, and then that.
And okay, so now we can move. Who you play for after Mali?
I moved to Unity. What happened is that the recruitment just went. Unity was making full-blown recruitment of Mali players, and a few of us who there were a few of us who hang out together, so we talked a lot, and then we decided to go to Unity.
What type of standard was that? A better standard than Mali?
Yes, Unity had a better standard than Mali. Unity was in second division. Unity had a better standard than Mali, and Unity had an established coach in Alan Kalinda, right? And he coached the team. I mean, there wasn't any, like sometimes you play for some teams. When I played for Mali, you never knew who actually was running the thing sometimes in the game. When I went to Unity, Alan was the coach. Okay. He ran the practices. We actually had organized practices, and he ran the practices. And quite a few of us went to Unity.
How was the Unity experience?
Well, the Unity experience was really, really good.
Were you there when the team went to the Premier Division?
Yes, I was there when the team got promoted to the Premier Division.
Promoted based on reaching a certain position in the standings, or was there a reorg?
I am not. I think it might have been a reorg. I think. I know we won the second division, I think, to move up to the first division, but from first to Premier, we never won the first division.
You would compare the level of the competition in Premier. We know it's Premier, so it had to be a little better. Was it much a culture shock, or was it just tough, a little tougher?
It wasn't a culture shock. It was just a harder division than the first division. I mean, you had players who. You had players in the Premier Division. I would say some of those teams, they had semi-pros on some of those teams sometimes.
Yeah. And how did you guys fare?
I think we fared well for a while in Premier, and then we got relegated back down to first division.
Okay. So now the Premier Division, you came back down. I think you had a 1-year stint in Premier Division.
Yeah.
And what happened to Unity, because I ended up playing with you in Iere in '84. So what happened and how you became available as a player? Because
Unity broke up at the end of the '83 season. So I came to Iere in '84.
Okay. When you say broke up, you got relegated, right?
Yeah.
Did you play in the first division after relegation?
Yes. Yeah, I played with Unity until the very last year. There was no more Unity.
So now I have to have your account now of what happened.
Unity was a very good club, very social. Remember, we had a netball team at one time too, right?
Yes.
The netball team brought a certain amount of social things into the club. We traveled well. We went to tournaments in Ottawa Royals tournament. We went to visit a team called Hilltoppers. We went to New York. We did a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. And we had a clubhouse, okay. But in that case, that was not well supported. Not from the club side. It wasn't well supported.
For rentals.
Yeah, for the public side. We never got the crowds to keep it going.
That was the one on Church Street.
Yes, yeah. But we did have a lot of things going. We you know that we had a little thing going with Iere. Girls used to sing at the game and stuff. But Unity, when I joined Unity had a strong coach, strong management. Remember, Sam Lewis was really involved in soccer in Toronto, and he did a lot for Unity and stuff going forward. But there comes a time when you get a clash between like management and the coach. as a player, I stay out of those things. And what happened eventually, you get a change in coach. So when that happens, things go down a bit. Then you get a change in coach another time, things go down. I joined Unity in 78. In 79, we went to Trinidad and Barbados. The team made a trip. Yeah. The team had a trip to Trinidad and Barbados. We played a team in Mayaro.
Okay.
We played a team from Mayaro, and we played a couple of games against the team that invited us. It was like an ambassadorial team of former Trinidad and Tobago internationals.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sponsored by BWI.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're the ones who invited us down. So we went to Trinidad and Barbados in one trip. We played in Barbados too against a few teams. We had a few players from Barbados, right? And Trinidad and Unity, although we had players from all over, it was very Trinity-centric, right?
Yeah. Well, if you got BWI associated with that team, which is a foreign team, so that's a Sam Lewis connection.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a good connection.
Yeah. But it was after 79 in like 1980 that we got this pulling within the management of the club, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened eventually is that it seemed that Sam and the coach and the manager were at loggerheads, right? And eventually, when we came back the next year, Unity decided to part ways with both. We had a general meeting, and then the executives then do not accept the nominations, and the people who accepted the nominations were all new. So we had a new executive made up of a lot of executives from Antillians. Because what happened is that we ended up with when I joined Unity, Unity had an executive that ran club well. Sam Lewis was there. There was a lot of other players, but a lot of other older players who were running the club. But over time, these people moved. I had people who moved back to Barbados, for instance. Like guys will move out and move on, right? So that is always a problem, because I've always found it that the active players do not really run things very smoothly, because you have a different focus, right? Yeah. So it was good for Unity at that time that we had people who weren't playing, just were interested in just running the club, and it was great. And but that happened at that point where we found ourselves with a new executive, right? And then the new executive informed us that they introduced a new coach at the next practice. They introduced a new coach.
So and the long and short of it is through that change that things start dissolving, because this is still the explanation for whether you saw it through personnel or whether you saw it through management.
The personnel remained in that most of the active members in the team remained. There were some people who retired, some people who moved on, but we didn't have people leaving the club because of the management. That's what I mean. It's just that the management changed. The next year we have quite a few new players come in.
And the window we're talking about, seeing that we're on this a little while, the window we're still talking about is the relegation when you came down from Premium, correct?
I'm not sure if it's the same year we came down from Premier that happened or the following year.
Okay, that's fine. Once it's after Premier, I just want to make sure we're in the sequence that we're dealing with.
From my recollection, we never had a problem coming back down to the first division. That was never an issue. That with the people that I played with, that was not an issue. We did have a lot of changes in personnel in the team over those years, and we did have changes in coaching, but we didn't have. I don't think I can't remember anybody being concerned about playing in the first division, because we actually attracted players even when we played in the first division, and in the last year we played, personnel was part of it. In the last year, but management was also part of it. 80 or 81, they had built a community center in Flemington Park.
Yeah, on St. Denis.
Yeah, when that community center opened, Unity was in first division. Unity was given time in the gym to run a neighborhood program. That was part of the thing that Sam set up too, and we actually ran a soccer program for the youth, and we ran an adult tournament also on Sunday afternoons. But Unity was still functioning pretty okay. I think Arthur Kerr was the coach, and there was a gentleman named August Wouter. Wouter is from Suriname.
Yeah.
And worked with a lot of the West Indian national teams and stuff like that. He came in and he was also coaching Unity at the time.
That was after the Premier window, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we did have like quite a few new players come into the club at that point, right? So we were working. Arthur Kerr was the coach of the team, and along with Wouter, and they coached the team, and we were doing all right. I think in the last year that I played in Unity, the last year the club was in existence, we started losing executives and the players.
When you say losing, under what circumstances?
Well, the thing is that we stayed until the season was over. But once the season was over, we knew that it was not going to be a next season.
How? How did you guys know that?
Because one, we didn't have enough people who were willing to take up roles as executives of the club during the last year. I think at one point, Lindy, you remember Lindy?
Yes, Burgess, yeah.
Yeah, Burgess. At one time, Burgess was the president of the club, and he hadn't been around for a long time. So we all knew that we were going to play out this year, and then it's going to be over. And the same thing that I explained to with Marley happened to with Unity too. A lot of people moved away. One of the things I found too is a lot of people moved to Brampton and Bramley. A lot of people retired from football. And we won't get enough new blood coming in.
All right. So hold right there. Based on what you just said there now, you moved to Iere. So that has to be just a Unity scenario. Because now you moved to Iere in 1984.
Yeah.
We were teammates. And I guess you joined Iere because there was no more Unity. Is that correct? Or were you canvassed for Iere prior to even when you were with Unity?
No, because there was no more Unity. That's why.
All right. So you take care.
All right.
And thanks for your time.
Okay.
My name is Sam Lewis. I'm from Trinidad. I arrived in Canada in the year 1969. I was never a top sportsman.
Mm-hmm.
So soccer or football, as we used to call it then, I played a little in school. I was a supposed goalkeeper until I had some stitches on my lip from trying to dive at a ball. So, you know, I liked sports, and although, like I like to say of myself, I was always pretty but never good.
Mm.
So I was never.
So that mean you were close to pretty good then.
I like that. No, I was never a top sportsman. I always lived in my brother's shadow and lived in the shadow of all my friends. I was always at sports. I was one of the people who you would find in the front row, so to speak, whenever there's athletics or football or any type of sports, you would find me there. So that was where I developed a love for sports. And but although not as a participant, I decided it may be better for me to simply go into administration of sports. So I decided I didn't want to go to New York or any part of the US, and I didn't want to go to London. To come to Toronto, where I met up with some of my friends. You know, you would know Junior Parker. Junior's brother, Pancho, and I were very good friends. That's Kelvin Parker. He and I were very good friends, and some other guys who I was happy to meet up with. Mm-hmm. And he took me around and introduced me to quite a lot of people who became very good friends of mine. I used to go out with him to see the games. Yeah. And, you know, I knew of Ian Jones and all those guys from home, Miles Sosa. I knew about those guys from Trinidad, and I knew them, you know, sending a wave to them and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But we weren't friends to say that we were bosom buddies or any such thing.
How did this thing evolve for you here now?
Well, I started hanging with some guys, and then we would end up on a Sunday morning football in one of the pitches, either in Flemington or in up Lawrence. You know, so we would end up with these hanging out there and talking and laughing. And I got very close to Mark Hopkinson, who is popularly known as Boy, Errol Alfred, and, you know, some of the guys who used to play in the industrial league here. And, you know, just hanging with them. I remember one night going on a bus ride to New York, because we used to go to New York every Labor Day weekend. They used to participate in a round robin tournament. And going down there one night, we were just joshing around, and one of them said, "Why you don't come and join the club? You're always with us. Why you don't come and join the club?" So I decided to join the club. That was Unity.
So the club was already functioning while you take that bus ride to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So on the way down, like I said, we were joshing, and I decided to join the club. And when I went to join the club, I don't know, probably somebody must have seen that I was stern. A lot of people think that I'm very stern, but I'm not really. but they probably thought I would have been a good man to come in and bring some order and discipline to the club. And that was how I started with Unity.
And what was the first position? What the first position, the official position they gave you in the club?
Well, believe it or not, this was crazy, because I don't understand how you could just bring somebody into the club and decide that that is the person who would lead the club. Because immediately I got elected as the president of Unity, and that is where I stayed for the next few years. It had been around 374, 75, somewhere around there.
Yes.
We used to meet in Flemington Park, and then we decided, encouraged of course by Dennis Devnish, we decided to get into the nightclub business, and following Iere too, because Iere boys used to hang out at Club Trinidad.
Correct.
And we decided, well, we'll just get a little place where we want to have our Friday night parties, because the place we used to rent to party was Hagerman's. If you remember.
Yeah,
Hagerman's.
14 Agaman, yes, yes.
Yeah, so we used to hang out at Hagerman's. That's where we used to have our parties, but we decided instead of paying, let us have our own place. So that's how we happened to get Church Street.
The leagues now, were you in Unity when the club joined the Flaminal League? Because I had to canvass the club to come to the Flaminal League. But you were already in TND.
Yes, we were already in TND. But yes, I was in the club when we joined the Flemington League, and that was a wonderful time for Caribbean youths in Toronto. We saw that as an opportunity, the Sunday Morning League as an opportunity for some of the young guys who couldn't make what we might call the first team to come out and enjoy themselves, you know. And we brought in quite a lot of young guys into football, as a matter of fact, because there are some who never played football in their life, but they came out to run with us, you know. And that was very enjoyable. And through that, we met so many young people from Brampton, from up north. When I say up north, I mean near north. We really met a lot of young men, and the club really flourished in those days.
So I know geographically, where would you say that Unity was from?
Well, we had players from all over. It was almost like West Indies United.
Yeah.
You know, we had players from quite a number of different places: St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Barbados.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, of course, Trinidad, Jamaica. We had players from all over. You know, and that kind of bond that grew out of that, up to today, it still exists. Because whenever we meet each other, Lawrence Glynn, you might have remembered Lawrence Glynn.
Yeah.
Len Crooks was from Jamaica. You know, we had guys from all over.
I think that was the strong point of Unity. I think that was because you really couldn't identify it with one country. You know,
right.
you were the leader. No two ways about that. Although you wasn't a baller, you really were the leader and stuff. And what you're attributing to your leadership qualities in terms of, is it consistency? Is it discipline? Is it responsibility? You know, is it humility?
Well, I do believe that anyone must have a certain amount of discipline if you want to succeed at anything. And while it is that some of the guys thought I was too serious in running the club, because some figured I just want to come here and have a good time, you know, that sort of thing. I felt that having a good time is one thing, but if you want to succeed at what you're doing, the discipline must be there. And that is where I suppose, insisted that we do certain things in a particular way. And it worked for us. It worked for us. We were, I would say, the third best club in Canada from the Caribbean, because I would like to give pips to West Indies United and to Iere, because they really, really were good. I think that the difference is that Iere and West Indies United had more natural talent than Unity had. And I know some of the guys are not going to agree with that. but I think they played back in their home countries at a higher level than the group that formed Unity. So, we said, for what it's worth, we was prepared to settle for third because we know that those two teams are really, really good. Of course, one year I think we won the Contrast League.
Yes, you did. I was just going to remind you that in King Circle, I remember you beat Real.
It was put on by Contrast newspaper.
Yeah.
Then also in the T&D League, we won the second division one year and we were promoted to the Premier Division, and then we couldn't cope with what was happening up there.
Mm.
You know,
in terms of finances or personnel? Or?
Well, remember that the Premier Division in T&D in those days had teams from Croatia, from Italy, from all over the world, and then all Caribbean teams. And we weren't, not that we weren't up to their standard physically, but I think they could have afforded more talent because some of them used to be paying their players.
Yes.
You know, so.
Yeah, that was yeah. And then you had traveling too, because I think you had Barry and a lot of these clubs too.
That's right. AS Barry and all these teams. Yeah. Jackie used to run Lay Girls, that was a netball team, and we came out with a team with Unity coming out in a team in netball. And so the club at that point changed from football or soccer alone to netball and after, well, I got involved with Caribana. And in getting involved with Caribana,
with the Caribana thing, did it come after Unity or you encompassed the two? And is that why the whole thing started to fizzle a bit?
Well, it came while I was with Unity. I must admit, they were great days. I enjoyed them. And that is why up to now, like I said earlier, we still have a relationship. All the members of the club and I still have a relationship. You know, I check them out. I mean, imagine one of the club members who came from West Indies United, as a matter of fact. I met him recently at my niece's place. His son is married to my niece, and that is Adaka.
Q?
Yeah, Q. Yeah, yes. So, you know, we enjoy each other's company, and that is what is important. During those days, well, I realize now that football isn't played with the same passion by all young people. And that is sad in a way because it was an outlet for us to meet together as family. Mm-hmm. And you know, in those days when you just came from the Caribbean, every time you see another Caribbean person, a relationship is built.
Yeah, good. Well, Sam, boy, it was nice. And this is supposed to happen. So I want to thank you for giving me this time and the information.
Okay,
all right, take care.
Take care.